I don't understand why I'm in this situation, and honestly, I'm frustrated because even my own family tells me I'm the bad one here. I just need to vent, and I don't need any advice or somebody telling me do this, or I think you should tell her this. More than 17 years ago, my ex-husband cheated on me with a woman I didn't know, but she knew me. He left me for her. Our only daughter was a baby, and I just moved on with my life. I'm never going to fight for a man who makes immature decisions without first thinking about the consequences. He married that woman, and I went on with my life, preferring to have a healthy co-parenting for my daughter. He never showed remorse, and he had even told me that ours was always a mistake, and that woman was the love of his life. That helped me to realize that he's a total weenie, and I don't need a man like that in my life. Now, he cheated on her, and for some reason, this woman who always had a really cold and distant relationship with me is insisting on trying to talk with me every day. I found out about the infidelity from my daughter, who wasn't affected by that, so I didn't think too much about it. The only thing that worried me was to know if he was going to be able to continue having our daughter at his house on weekends as always. But his wife started sending me messages explaining what happened when I never asked her that. And in the past, I only spoke to her if her husband didn't answer my texts to ask something about my daughter. It's obvious that she needs to talk about it. It doesn't matter if I answer dryly because she sends me long audios talking about it anyway. I mean, I understand that she needs to talk about her husband's infidelity and blah. But why me? I don't want to be rude, but I don't care how she or he feels. In one of her audios, she says, "You know how I feel now." Like, I guess, but that was 17 years ago. It's not the same. And if I'm being 100% honest, she can't compare herself to me at all. A woman who has just given birth, to whom her husband tells her that he has been cheating on her for a long time, with another woman who is not boring in bed and does know how to value him, versus a woman who always knew that her husband is unfaithful and decided to marry him anyway. Anyway, I've tried to ignore her as much as I can. But even when I talked to my family or friends about this, almost all of them told me things like, "Oh, but she must feel lonely. But she wasn't to blame for being the other one. I think you should be more empathetic. We all need someone to talk to." Or my favorite one, "She's not to blame for him being a cheater. You should understand her because she needs help. I understand that she is not to blame and he's the cheater. But she, a totally adult woman at that time, decided to marry a man she knew was sleeping with her while his wife was pregnant. So why should I now carry the weight of helping her when she never helped me by telling me, 'Hey, your husband slept with me and that's really shitty because he's married to you.' Or that's what I'd do if a married man flirted with me." Now, if she didn't do any of that, then why is it my duty as a feminist to force myself to be her friend? It doesn't make sense, and the worst thing is that almost all the women around me tell me that I should help her and be her ear when I don't want or feel empathy for her or for him. I think she and he knew very well what they were getting into. I don't understand why I should be her free therapist now. Being cheated on is not my whole personality. I don't need to talk about that 24/7 with her. I just chose to ignore her. And that's what I'm going to continue doing because I just don't care how she feels, even if I'm a bad feminist for not feeling empathy. Sorry, my first language is Spanish, and I wrote everything pretty annoyed. Edit. No, I can't block her because she's still living with him, and I need to have her contact in case of an emergency with my daughter. And honestly, it's weird to have so many comments and even private messages from people wanting to tell me what I should send to her, and even writing what I feel. I'm sorry, but there's no way I'm going to use the message of a stranger who doesn't know me, how I feel, or the whole situation to say something to someone. I feel like a lot of people in the comments are reflecting their own traumas. Now for the 13-day update. Hi, it's been a while since I posted, and I just wanted to give a little update for people who were worried. First of all, my mother was a lover for a long time when I was a teenager and during my adulthood. Their relationship lasted long years until he died. I think his wife never found out about his affair. That's why my mom manipulates me so much into not judging my ex's wife, because no one chooses who to fall in love with. My mother always reflected herself on that woman, and that's why she said that my ex-husband and his lover, now wife, are soulmates, and I shouldn't get in the way. I was very young. At the time, I could only lean on my mother for a little support, and well, narcissists always catch vulnerable people. Nowadays, I don't have much contact with her, but my daughter spends time with my family. And about my friends, well, I am a feminist activist, and opinions regarding lovers are divided, because most of them are on the liberal side. Most of the time, it's seen as something misogynistic to judge them because they are single women, and the man is the one we should blame, and we need to be supportive with other girls. So I expected that reaction from most of them. I agree with that in most cases, but not in this one. I can feel empathy when the woman did not know, or when she is a minor being groomed. But in this case, I do not feel any pity because she knew well what she was doing. Women can also be mean and cruel. Women can also choose to be the bad guys in the story without someone manipulating us, because we are not weak, and my ex's wife is that kind of woman. No one manipulated her into doing anything. I'm sorry that explanation was perhaps unnecessary, but there were people who didn't understand my family's and friends' behavior, and honestly, it feels good to vent. I have spoken with my ex's wife because, honestly, a few days ago I had a really stressful day, and the last thing I needed was to see her messages in my WhatsApp, so I just exploded. I planned to continue ignoring her, but that day I was upset about things about my work, and I ended up telling her everything. I sent her an audio telling her that I am not interested in her life or in the fact she's suffering. I told her that I am not her friend, nor am I interested in being one. She never asked me for forgiveness, and now she expects me to start the group of women cheated on by my ex. I told her other things, and I would love to be able to post audios here. I told her that she knew very well what she got herself into. She knew well that my ex was capable of cheating on the mother of his baby, but she still decided to marry him and live the stupid fantasy that she could change him and that she was different from all the other women he was with. God, I hate long audios, but it was more than 5 whole minutes telling her that her situation and mine are nothing alike. I think that was my greatest catharsis. She got upset and we started arguing. It was quite tiring, and the last thing I want is to have problems after 17 years of having normal co-parenting. I know they are not going to get divorced, and that means I will have to live with her in my life forever. So I sent a message to my ex, resending him one of the audios she sent me. I took the time to listen to them all, and she never apologized to me. I don't need her apologies, by the way. I don't care, but some comments asked me about that. They were just audios complaining and wanting us both to speak badly about him or wanting to have me as her free therapist. I told my ex to tell his wife to calm down and pay for a psychologist. He apologized to me and told me that they are both working on the marriage, so they are at the stage where she still feels angry and insecure with him. Like, yes, obviously. Idiot. So since I suffered the same, no, it's not the same, she felt that we could share the pain. He told me that they both started going to online conferences of I don't know what couple who teach how to get over an infidelity. Sometimes I feel envious of people who can scam others so easily anyway. I told him that I am not friends with her and that this affects our co-parenting, so he should put a stop to her if she doesn't understand what I say. In the end, he reluctantly told me he was going to talk to her, and I've gone 3 days without any message from her, except today one, where she just told me that my daughter was sleeping there, so I guess it worked. I don't care if they live a happy or miserable marriage. I don't care if she's happy knowing that he cheated on her, but stays with him anyways. I just want to live in peace without getting into trouble with people who at over 40 years old are still living mentally in high school. Am I the idiot for criticizing the hospital's privacy policy after they refused to help me contact a deceased woman's family? A woman died in my arms on 2nd Ave this week, and I'd like her family to know she didn't die alone. Help me find them. Around 7 p.m. on Monday, I spotted an elderly woman lying on the sidewalk of 63rd and 2nd Avenue. She had a Bloomingdale's shopping bag and a pink handbag. Something was clearly wrong. She was not able to form words anymore, but was still conscious. I sat by her, put her head on my lap, told her to breathe, keep her eyes open, and I held her hand and stroked her hair to soothe her. Someone called an ambulance. She unfortunately passed away minutes later in my arms. It would still take some time for the ambulance to arrive. Someone tried CPR, but to no avail. The ambulance took her away, and I think they kept trying CPR for a while, but I'm afraid she had really passed. I forgot to give the ambulance personnel my information. I regret it so much because I would want her family to know she didn't just pass away alone on the cold and dark sidewalk, that she had a bunch of strangers caring for her, talking to her, that her hair was stroked and her hand was held, that we tried our best. I called Mount Sinai Hospital the next day. The operator put me in touch with the West Emergency Room on 59 St. and to someone else. But everyone told me that they couldn't pass a message to the family because I didn't have her name or DOB. I asked them, isn't the time and exact pickup location enough? But everyone said no. Please, can someone help me, or does anyone have advice? Now for a few important comments. One commenter said, sorry, I don't know how you can find her family, but I'm very glad you were there for her. You were her angel. To which the original poster replied, "Aw, thank you so much. I'm still quite shook by it." Me and the other strangers just kind of hugged and cried together for a few minutes after she was put in the ambulance, and then we went our separate ways again. It was a weird walk home, for all of us, I'm sure. I was so grateful to that handful of people. Another commenter mentioned, "You are a good human being. I can't even imagine how many people had walked by her and would have kept walking by her." The original poster responded, "I'm afraid many did. I saw it happen as I approached." It got me thinking a lot, especially as winter is nearing, about the homeless too. I think many assumed she was just a homeless person or someone who OD'd. Please always check on people, if ever so briefly, when you see them on the ground and they seem semi-unconscious, whether they are homeless or not. It can save lives. Someone else commented, "I'm so moved by the kindness you showed her in her moment of need. It must be so much for you to carry with you and process, but I hope you're proud of your instincts and how you rose to the occasion. I'm sure it's not nearly anything you expected to be doing, ever. What a gift, and also how tender and upsetting. It's not at all overkill to consider speaking with a counselor or therapist about this to help you make sense of what you witnessed and took part in. Especially if you don't end up getting answers about her identity or getting to inform her family. You comforted her in a profound act of love and humanity, and we should all be so lucky to be selflessly cared for like that in our final moments." The original poster replied, "You're so kind, thank you very much. It was a rough night. That first night, I kept seeing her face so clearly. It's strange because it's an incredibly intimate moment too. You suddenly share with someone. And to then walk home and think these are the last hands that touched her face. It still chokes me up. I've talked at length with my mom today, who has for decades volunteered in a hospice, guiding people in their final days. That was really helpful. In any case, thank you for this reminder. I appreciate it." Now for a quick update. In follow-up to yesterday's post, with the help of you guys, I was able to find the family of the woman who sadly passed away in my arms on an UES sidewalk and let them know she didn't die in solitude. I'm so grateful. Because you all commented and upvoted, this post had a wide reach. It led to one reader referring her friend to this thread after hearing about a loss she experienced this week that resembled my story. I received a private message and one long and heartfelt phone call later, for which I'm eternally grateful, and an exchanged picture to confirm the identity. We knew we were talking about the same person. The woman's family mostly lives in India. They had been informed about her death by the hospital, but had not received information about the circumstances of her passing. The friend will now be telling the family about the group of people that rubbed her shoulders to stay warm, stroked her hair, and tried to comfort her in those final moments. A sweet little fun fact that goes to show how connected we are even though we are strangers in this big city. It turns out the woman used to be a chemistry professor at the same university where I work as a history researcher. May she rest in peace, and may her family be well. And a big special thank you to those other folks that were there on 63rd Street when it happened. Lastly, I truly believe it is an unhealthy sign of the medical system that it is made to seem impossible to pass along a message to a family when the location, pickup time, and emblem of an ambulance are known. I understand the importance of privacy laws and regulations, but I didn't ask for her name or to be able to contact the family directly. I just asked Mount Sinai to tell the family that a loved one didn't die alone. That shouldn't be a big ask, and that sure shouldn't be a violation of anything. Thank you all. Play Tetris in the days after a shocking event, which apparently can help prevent trauma from forming. Contact funeral homes if none of the above works. Hang up signs in the streets. I actually printed out a bunch, but it turned out not to be needed any longer. And last, but certainly not least, try posting in the Ask NYC Reddit group. Love to you all. Am I the idiot for refusing to apologize to my dad's girlfriend's racist kids? My dad wants me to apologize to his girlfriend's children for pointing out their discriminatory comments about my own race. My parents split when I was 23 and my sister was 20. They were such a poor match, and I'm surprised they lasted so long, and both of us breathed a bit of a sigh of relief when they split. Everyone was immediately happier, and since then, both of our parents have found new partners. I've always had a good relationship with my dad, albeit a bit of a strained one. My dad is a fair bit less politically correct than I am, and I am hardly PC at all, trust me. He calls things that are stupid or that he doesn't like gay. He uses the word fag to describe gay people, thinks Hillary Clinton would be a bad president because she'd nuke everyone on her period, and laments that he can't use the N-word in public. He's the epitome of out-of-touch, late 50s lily white guy, is what I'm saying. I love my dad, and while these things bother me, there's literally no changing him, so I have to just bear it when I'm hanging out with him. And an important note is that while my dad says some sexist, hateful shoot, he never does so in public. At the very least, he knows when to keep his opinions to himself and his family. Recently, my dad's been seeing this woman, let's call her Iris. Iris has 2 kids as well, male 29 and female 27. I don't really know Iris very well. I met her earlier this year at my dad's place, but only very briefly as I was dropping off a few things with my dad. My sister's never met her before, and neither of us has met her kids before. My dad really likes this woman, so he wants all of us, both sets of kids, to get to know each other and the parents so we can all be a blended family. Despite my dad's political incorrectness, he can be adorable sometimes. So Dad invited us all out to dinner. My sister's known to be a bit bristly with strangers, so I told her to be on her best behavior because I want our dad to be happy and I didn't want to offend Iris or her kids. So we sit down and all start trying to get to know each other. My dad chose a Mexican restaurant to take us out to because it's our whole family's favorite type of restaurant. My mom is Mexican, and growing up, we had the most bomb-ass, authentic Mexican food all the time. Since my mom and dad split, my dad has been trying to fill the hole my mom's great cooking left in his belly, so to speak, and is a taqueria junkie. Also important to note, me and my sister, despite being half Mexican, have really white skin. We have obviously Mexican features, or at least I think they're obviously Mexican, but everyone always assumes we are of white European descent because of the color of our skin. So we sit down with Iris and her kids, and immediately her kids start complaining. These are grown but adults complaining that half of the menu is in Spanish. Next to each thing on the menu was the Spanish name and the English name, and all the descriptions were in English, so it wasn't like an English speaker couldn't read it. I am near fluent in Spanish, and my sister speaks passably, and we're both in school to become English second language teachers. But we tried to settle the hair on the backs of our necks and ignore them. We actually managed to have a pleasant convo with them otherwise, until the waiter comes over to get our drink orders. Iris's son snapped at the waiter like a dog to get his attention and take his order first, and her daughter spoke in a highly condescending voice. very slowly, like this man working at a restaurant that caters to big fat white people couldn't understand damn English. Iris was normal, thank God. But when the waiter, bless his jolly soul, he was so kind, despite being treated like an idiot by those two, left, her son remarked that he didn't expect the service to be very good. I don't even know if he could understand us. My dad has been to this place before, so he said, no, the service here is great. You're gonna love this food. I recommend. I can't remember what exactly he recommended, trying to smooth things over. And then the son says, not like I could understand him either with that god-awful accent. These people need to learn English if they want to come to America. Probably an illegal or some shoot. Me and my sister are generally nice, kind people, but no one has ever accused us of being patient or suffering fools silently. So because we're petty, we just gave each other a look and started speaking only in Spanish to one another for the rest of the night. I felt bad because Iris looked mortified, but it felt so good to be so petty for the next hour or so through dinner. We of course switched to English to talk to Iris or her kids, but with each other and my dad, who can understand it but not speak it, we spoke the most rapid, fluent Spanish we could muster. And at every opportunity, my sister would try to mention that we were Mexicans and had grown up in a Hispanic household with our mom and her extended family. Since then, my dad's been texting and calling us, mostly me because I'm usually the ringleader of these sorts of things, begging for us to apologize to Iris's kids for embarrassing them. I'm sure my dad didn't know they were going to be so discriminatory towards Mexicans, or else I'm sure he wouldn't have invited them to go out for Mexican food, but I know he doesn't even think what they said was that discriminatory. He said that they could have been worse, and there was no need for you to humiliate them and Iris like that. I agree. Iris was lovely. I should have taken her feelings into account, and I have no problem calling or meeting her to apologize for acting so petty and childish. But damn it, I do not want to apologize to racists for pointing out and not taking their racism sitting down. Is that so wrong? What should I do? Am I just being petty about this too? I don't want to make my dad unhappy, but I know he's not a good judge of what is and isn't racism. And I don't feel like I should apologize for slapping a couple of discriminatory adult brats down. Now for a few comments. One commenter said, ha ha ha, nice, and don't apologize. Another commenter pointed out, he said that they could have been worse, and added, yeah, well, so could you. They're lucky you went with the indirect reminder that they have no idea who might be listening to or offended by their bigotry, rather than calling them out for everyone in the restaurant to hear. Tell Dad and Iris that you realize her children's ignorance doesn't reflect on her, but they should feel embarrassed over what they did. And you think it's best to avoid future family dinners until they understand where they went wrong and apologize to you. Another commenter humorously suggested, apologize in Spanish. Now for the 9-day update. My sister and I talked about it with our mom, who has always been much calmer than us. She laughed at us speaking nothing but Spanish and said she wished she'd been there to see Iris's kids' faces. She did tell us to just apologize, though, because she knows how our dad can hold grudges over tiny things like this. We didn't really want to do that, though. I contacted Iris and asked if we could meet up for coffee and talk about everything that happened. She was super apologetic when we met for coffee and said a lot of her kids' funny ideas come from their bio dad, who is a patriotic Republican. The way she kind of sugarcoated everything about it makes me think maybe she doesn't necessarily think what they did was wrong in general, just that she was sorry my sister and I happened to be part Mexican and that what they did offended us. Anyway, it was just me and Iris at a Starbucks. My sister wasn't there. She's grown incredibly apathetic to the incident in a very short amount of time. That's just the way she is. I said I understand everyone's entitled to their opinion, that my dad has some opinions I don't agree with at all too, but that it was rude of them to assume we'd be okay being subjected to their discriminatory remarks, and was embarrassing to be seen with racists. Iris was pretty flustered at the term racists, but I didn't back down. Anyway, she was at least reasonable and apologized again about what happened, and I apologized that we embarrassed her at dinner. Besides some slightly irreversibly ruffled feathers, I think I've at least smoothed things over with her. My dad is another story. He is stubbornly not talking to me until I apologize to his girlfriend's kids. I made my stance clear that I wouldn't, and if he wanted to act like racism against his kids was okay, then I wouldn't be hanging around him anymore, or God forbid bringing my future mixed kids and his future grandkids around. My sister just sent him a text that said, "Have fun with the racists." She's not good at subtlety. Anyway, that's where things are right now. Not a super good ending, but not necessarily a bad ending either.